put a shirt and tie and go off to my job every day, big smile on my face, behind closed doors, I hated myself.
What got you out of those dark days when you are lying there and you're crying but you still got up and carried on?
My son being born, I suppose. He saved my life, I suppose, and well, a lot of it, I was obviously involved in a very serious road traffic accident. So when the emergency services turned up with the vehicle, they were asking the people in the car different questions. And they said, oh, he's dead. Because I smashed my skull, the big hole in my skull. And he's embedded in my brain. So that was the first operation I had that night. And then I was in a coma then for 4 weeks in intensive care. So the physical injuries were horrendous. But my biggest challenge was obviously lay ahead, my mental health, unbeknown to anybody. See, I bottle things up. I put a mask on every single day, put a smile on my face after work every day. Behind closed doors, I hated myself, hated what I saw in the mirror. I call myself a freak every single day. And I said, I was in this corridor, walking up this dark, dark corridor with a really bright white light at the end of it. I was walking down this corridor. I was going to walk into this light. All of a sudden, I heard names calling me from behind. So I get emotional, sorry. There were some dark, dark days for years. Like, I wish I was dead. I wish I wasn't here anymore. I was a hindrance to my family, the stress I put them through. I was lying in bed, get out of bed every day. It was hard work. I'd lie in bed looking up at the ceiling, just crying, tears streaming in my face. And I couldn't get out of bed. And that's depression. I don't want people to suffer for 24 years like I did in silence. And all I want to do, which is a bit woo-woo, this is, or whatever you call it, I want to close my eyes on my deathbed, whenever that is, hopefully a long time away, knowing I made a difference to the planet.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Search 7. They are a search marketing agency for social good. They elevate brands' online exposure locally, nationally and globally through strategic SEO and paid media consultancy. They specialise in many different sectors, including charities, e-commerce, travel, health and medical education, and professional and creative services. They also give agencies and charities the exposure they deserve via their hosted agency and charity events, helping to build community and connections. Their pledge is the inspiration behind their name. Since they started in 2011, they have pledged to give back 7% of their profits to charity. This has become a minimum of 7% each year, with their current fundraising surpassing £150,000 in support of 63 charities. Their latest campaign, #Share177k, aims to raise £177,000 by the end of 2026 to mark their 15th birthday. It's a pleasure to have them as part of the Series 7 of the podcast. I'm delighted. Thanks so much for your support. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm here with the legend, Mr. Andrew Jenkins. How are you, sir?
I'm brilliant, thank you very much. Really looking forward to this. Been looking forward to this for a while, actually. So no, it's great that I'm actually here. It's brilliant.
Oh, mate, honestly, it's been. I remember listening to you and started following you after a mutual friend of ours who was on John Saunders' podcast, and just watching your journey over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years has been incredible. And like we've spoken a couple of times online, and it was just there's so much alignment with, I think, our views, values, messages and stuff, and I'm just so honoured to have you on it. I'm really excited, mate. So, well, look, we're gonna dive straight in as we always do. Right, we're gonna kick things off with how do you define success, mate? What's it mean to you?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. I think success is deeply personal to every individual, and success for some people is a career, financial security. It's different, isn't it? But like me, I suppose a lot of people associate success with the material things in life. The job you got, the salary you got, the house, the car you got, and I was one of them people for many, many years. You'll deep dive into, I suppose, in the next couple of minutes. But I think success for me now is more about living to my values, living my true, authentic self, doing my best I can every day, and spending time with loved ones and family, and being healthy. I suppose that's successful. I suppose, and that's not material things a lot of the time. It's not about achievements and things like that. It's about yeah, just spending time with loved ones, and time is so precious. You know, we can't buy it, we can't sell it. Once it's gone, and we take it for granted sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And I know more than most people how precious time is. So yeah, success for me now is just being content and happy and complete, and my mind to stop racing, I suppose.
I love that. And I guess, but like, as you sort of alluded to, I guess that wasn't, go back to, you know, early 20s or whatever, that was not what success looked like for you, was it?
No, well, I say like many people I think in this country, you're brought up and you're brought into this world, and from a very young age you start getting your self-worth and everything judged by the material things in life and your achievements. In school, if you get an A grade, the teachers think you're brilliant. If you get a D or an E grade, you get written off so much. So straight away, like 4 or 5 years of age, you're getting your self-worth judged by the material things. And then sometimes your parents put pressure on you, not intentionally. They just want what's best for your children at the end of the day, the parents do. But, you know, they compare you to your brothers, your older sisters and things, and, you know, get a good job, work hard and all these things. Again, material things, get a job, you know, buy a house. Like, we got a blueprint of British life, I think, in this country. And like, you're born, work hard in school, get a job and build in somebody else's dream, find a partner, get married, have a child and die. And that's the blueprint of British life. And if you live it about different, or you're not living to that formula, you feel like you're a failure in life or you're broken. And I felt that many, many times over the last, 40 years, I suppose, in my life, because I've not lived it like that at all.
Yeah, that's so, and you're right. I talk about this so much. There is that narrative, isn't there? There's societal expectations. I think that's it, isn't it? It's the expectations that society, parents, peers, people around you, and the comparison side of things. There's just this societal expectations, and actually, when we fall short of those things or we don't align with those, like exactly that. There's that message of feeling like a failure. And you look at it and just go, what? Where does that change? How do we change that narrative early on?
Yeah, and it's like, I listened to a podcast actually when I was on the way down here yesterday, and Mel Robbins' podcast, and it was exactly about that topic. There's a name for it. It's called social clock. Where that's come from, the social clock was designed 100 years ago. The average life expectancy was like 29, 30. So obviously people had to do things at a younger age or that certain age because they had much longer before they died. But now the average age, I don't know, what's the average age? 80, 90 now, I suppose, where like 100 years ago it was, like it was 29, 30 was the average age. So like years ago you had to get married by a certain age. Like now it's like, oh, by 22 you got to graduate from university. By the late 20s you got to find the love of your life. 35 get married, have children and all that sort of thing. And all these things, you expect these time limits. And think, where do they come from? They made up from like a long, long time ago, and when times were completely different back then. So yeah, so you put pressure on yourself then. You know, you look around you, and I've done that for years until the last 2 years. Looking around me, all my friends are settled down, married, nice houses, cars, and I'm thinking, I'm a failure in life. My brothers are settled down. I'm thinking, and I don't think, but it's only the last 2 years I've actually been comfortable. The 18 months I've been comfortable with myself, what I'm doing now, to be honest. And I thought, no, I'm not comparing myself to them people anymore.
Because I think we spoke obviously a little bit last night when we caught up, and you sort of go, it's in a book. I reference it all the time on the podcast here, and you mentioned you read it as well about the biggest regret of the dying. The biggest regret is that I've not lived a life true to myself, right? Not lived in alignment with my values, not lived an authentic life. So if that's the biggest regret, we know that from research and from books that have been written and from palliative nurses who have spoke to people in their dying days, this is the thing. And yet, society is still going, don't worry about that. This is what success looks like, or this is what you should be doing, and tick off these things, and then you're successful and happy, and that's a fulfilled life. Like,
no. I see when you get to the top of the ladder, you're working hard, building a career, building all this sort of thing. You get to the top of the ladder sometimes, you look around, you think, this is what life is. I was told this would make me happy. I was told this is what happiness was. It is. And you get there and you still feel empty, and you don't feel complete, and you just don't feel anything. And people call it a midlife crisis. I don't think it's a midlife crisis. I think you just realised who the true version of yourself is. So you're the real version of you is down here, your authentic self down here. And you've got 10, 20, 30 levels above of social acceptance, upset, failures, all these sort of things on top of you, weighing you down. And then, you've got to be really brave and courageous to basically retry and unpick all these different layers to find out who the real version of yourself is. And I did that a couple of years ago. I looked in the mirror. I didn't like the version of myself I was, and I started looking at myself and working on myself. And it's scary and being vulnerable. I can understand why people go through their whole life not wanting to find out their true version. You've got to look at your flaws, your triggers, and all these sort of things, and then deep dive. You've got to work on yourself inwards first before you can work outwards, I think. So I did that about 2 years ago, and it's it's hard doing. It's scary, but it's enlightening. You feel really empowered doing it.
Yeah, And I think you're right. I think there's so much in it that people they don't want to do the work on themselves, that because it's quite a scary journey. I'm similar to you. I guess like we're navigating that journey, and we're trying to look inward, and we're trying to see what this new version looks like. But you have to ask yourself some difficult questions, right?
Yeah, you do. And if you look around, you make some changes. That could be in your job, your relationship. It could be, some difficult conversations sometimes with people, family members. And there's something called the sunk cost fallacy, where it's about when you invest so much time in something, you think you don't want to change. You know, I've already invested 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years into it. And that feels like if you change now, it feels like a waste. It's like in university. People say, do you enjoy the first year of university? Oh, no, I didn't enjoy it at all. What are you going to do? Another 2 years? Well, why? Like, why are you going to do it? If you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? It's a known term. And, people do that. Same in a relationship, same in a marriage, same in a job. You've been in this career 10 years. But as a human being, I think your values thing, as you get older, the values change. You realise what's important to you. But then, rather than, you can still stay in that job for another 20, 30 years, or you can make a move, and you can change. You can start living the life and living the values and being true to yourself, I suppose. And it's not I don't think it's a wasted time limit, because obviously you've learned a lot and you've gained a lot of experience from them other years in your either relationship or your job or your career. You've learned from it. So, yeah, it's never too late to change in life. I say to people now, you could be 20, 30, 60, 70. It's never too late to change and try and live the life you want.
Love that. But do you think like this, because they do say midlife crisis, but you're right, I agree with you. I think it's like almost like a midlife awakening. You start to accept a little bit more, you start to understand, you know what your boundaries are, you know what your values are, them type of things. But do you think that what you've got now and the skill set and the mindset around that, do you think we can teach people or educate people like to get to that at a younger age, so that they're building a life from a younger age? We're tapping into that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think we can. And I think like the curriculum, for example, is 100 years out of date. Do you mean? And why don't we teach our children in school about being entrepreneurs, setting up your own business, so they can be, they can control their own destiny. And they haven't got to worry about being laid off or being made redundant or AI or anything. They can build their own dream and build their own success, and they can write their own paychecks eventually. They can find something they're passionate about when they're at a young age. I say to youngsters now, find something you're passionate about, whatever that is, and then try and build a career out of it. And don't worry about the money. If you're good at it and you work hard and work really, really hard. I say I'm not all unicorns and rainbows, life is not like that. And there's so many people out there on the well-being space. It's all like unicorns and rainbows and nonsense. But I think people are getting fed up with that. So I say to people now, it's not going to just fall on your lap. I said you have got to work hard for it, but eventually you will get there. Just keep going. Don't give up if you have a knockback, because you will get knockbacks in life. Just keep going. That's how you build strength and resilience. And then eventually, you will eventually get successful. Like when you're young, you're living at home, you've got no real outgoings or no real commitments. Try and build a business there, but not in school. They get promoted. You've got to go to university. You're told all successful people have to go to university. Like we touched on it last night. People going to university now because they think it's just a party life. Really, when I was young, go to university if you knew roughly what you wanted to do in life, a teacher, a doctor, whatever. But now you go to university and I say, what do you want to do when you finish? I don't know. Right, so they end up getting a job then in a company or doing something they could have done 4 years ago without the 25, 30 grand worth of debt. But they think you have to go to university. That's why you're being promoted in school. All the successful people in the world go to university. I said, no, they don't. They don't all go to university. I didn't go to university.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm not saying I'm successful, but...
And it's back to that narrative, I guess, of what... Because it's back to that thing around academic intelligence is seen as successful. You're clever if you academically you're so, like you said, the education system 100 years out of date, and we're still teaching those things. And you're, like you said, you get an A, you're really successful. You get a D, that means that person's not that clever. Yeah. So immediately the message they're getting at school from a young age is you're a failure, because you've not achieved this. Whereas that person might be able to walk into a room and light up the room because they can talk to people, they can have an open communication, they've got empathy, emotional intelligence, and that's not measured. I can't understand why that can't change within the education system, why we don't bring in those things. Like what you mentioned it yesterday about life skills. Why are we not teaching those things about APRs and mortgages or
calories and stuff like that? Calories in, calories out. I say, emotional intelligence is so important. Like I didn't get any real qualification when I left school, but I can talk to people, I can listen to people, I can build relationships. And I said, I was worked in Lloyd's Bank for nearly 18 years, a bank manager, I've had good jobs. but I don't have any qualifications. Do you mean real qualifications? But I'm good at talking to people, building relationships, and I think that's really powerful, and it's a good skill. We should be learning that more and more. Like, teach our children how to have interpersonal skills, because they're going further and further away from their communication skills with the technology, their phones all the time. To have a conversation, they find it really challenging and difficult. And then some of the children, I used to work in Lloyd's Bank in Queen Street in Cardiff, and there was a lot of staff there on a Saturday who were in university full time. They just did Saturday staff. And there were some really bright children studying like chemistry, really bright children. But talking to clients, they really struggled. Talking to customers when they came into their counter in front of them, they really struggled with that then. And I say to them, why didn't you speak to that guy? I give them feedback. Why didn't you talk to the client? Well, I don't know what to say. I said, how valued do you think that person feels when they left this bank now? Why didn't it's easy for you. You can talk. I said, it's not easy for me, I said, but I can just talk to them about the weather, about their top they got on, their hairstyle, why they're in Cardiff today, they shopping, just talk. And then once the customer answers, it leads you on a path. You just automatically go on a path. The customer takes you on a path then. So, but when people say it's easy, and perhaps it is a skill. I don't perhaps give myself some credit for it. I do find it easy talking to people. And I say, youngsters in life, I say, don't worry about your qualifications. If you want to do certain jobs, maybe. But as long as you can speak to people and listen to people, empathy and all that sort of thing, you'll get really far in life, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's two main things I've taken from what you've just said. One, exactly that, around the emotional intelligence, the ability to communicate and just have a conversation. Listen is a big thing. But the other part, just finding out what you love doing and lean into that. Like, if you're in school, like you said, you're stuck in this curriculum that you've got to do X, Y, and Z. I think, who was it? I think it was Jimmy Carr or someone said something brilliant. He went, the thing the world doesn't need is more people that are shit at Pythagoras rule. Like, no one gives it. The world doesn't need that.
Pi r squared.
Yeah,
I've never used X plus Y in my life, and I worked in a bank for 18 years, 17 years in figures all day. So, but I've never used anything I've learned in maths apart from the basic addition, multiplication, subtraction, and that sort of thing, which I learned in primary school anyway. So all the things I learned in comprehensive school, I don't use any of it in my life, to me. And so thinking, like you just touched on earlier on, is that why don't we teach our children, like, obesity is costing the NHS billions of pounds. Suicide rates are going up. The debt in the country is ridiculous, billions of pounds. So why don't we teach our children about APR's percentages? So when they leave school, they know if they borrowed money on a credit card or whatever, it's going to cost them X amount. Learn about calories in, calories out. Because that's all it is, really, is, I know there's macronutrients, proteins and all that, but most people all need to know is burn more calories than you need, you're going to lose weight, eat more, you're going to put weight on. It's common sense to me. Why don't we teach our children that? And why do we teach our children about their moods, how to regulate their moods and emotions and that? And also what they can do, coping mechanisms, and give them the tools to get out of it rather than let them spiral or labelling them with depression or labelling them with ADHD. Just give them the tools. They're having a bad day. I spoke to somebody a couple of weeks ago. Oh, my son got ADHD. Oh, so I'm sorry. Sorry. No, my son's depressed. Sorry, she said. I said, oh, sorry to hear that. I said, how old is he? 8. I was 8. I said, right, okay. Has he been medically diagnosed? Oh, no. I said, right, okay. He's having a bad day. I get bad days exactly the same as everybody else. Just because my social media looks great, I'm not a robot. I got feelings and emotions exactly the same as everybody else. I'm just more self-aware now. I know my triggers, and I got coping mechanisms and strategies I can implement quite quickly to stop me spiraling. And that's the only difference between me now and then me, say, 3 or 4 years ago. Whereas years ago, I'd spiral. I'd be down for days, weeks sometimes. Whereas now, I can stop myself spiraling, and there's things I can do, and there's things I can do to get me out of it. But I say we've got to start teaching our children about, I'm not saying teach them how to be counsellors or psychologists. We give them a basic understanding of their moods and their emotions, really.
100%. Well, can you share a couple of, what are your, like now you've said you've learned them over the years or the last couple of years you've taken, what are those coping mechanisms when you are having because you're right, we both, me and you, generally, especially look at our social media, smiles on our faces, and we're positive people, right? So we've got that positive outlook, but doesn't mean we don't have them down days, right? So, but when you are having a down day or in a dark place, what coping mechanisms do get you out of that?
Talking is a big thing. Obviously, growing up, I always thought talking open up made you weak, and real men don't talk. Real men don't have feelings and emotions. You've got a macho, you're the breadwinner, the protector, and all that sort of thing. So you don't talk about feelings and emotions. You bottle things up. And being vulnerable. I've lent in my vulnerable side the last couple of years, I suppose, because in this country, we think being vulnerable is a weakness, but it's not. It's actually strength, and it's being brave and courageous to be vulnerable with somebody. But what normally sometimes what happens, if you try and be vulnerable with someone, they might use it as a weapon against you. I said, if somebody tries to be vulnerable and opens up and talks to you, don't ever use it as a weapon against them. I said, that's the worst thing you can do, because they probably won't talk to you ever again, or they won't open up and talk to you again. So I've lent into my, talking. If I need help or support, I'll ask for it. Or if I'm on a down day, I'll talk to somebody about it. Whereas before, I'd bottle it up. I end up escalating into a big argument, or I'd end up bottling things up then. But I talk about things. I also go out in nature, walking. So I think there's a massive link between physical health and mental health. I think getting out in nature, like as a race, as a generation, we've stopped walking and moving. I listened to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they said years ago, 85% of our time was spent outdoors. Now it's less than 7%. So I think that's ridiculous. Do you mean? We're on screens all the time. Like, think of it, when you wake up in the morning, sometimes you set your alarm on your iPhone. You turn your alarm off, but sometimes people just end up scrolling for a couple of minutes on their iPhone at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. Go downstairs, put the news on before you get ready for work, watch a telly, watch another screen, drive to work, sit in front of a computer or a laptop all day, get home from work then, and then you either put the telly on or work on your laptop on your phone again. So, and I just think our brains aren't designed. I'm not a scientist or far from a doctor or professor, but I think our brains aren't evolving as quick as technology. And there's a huge increase in like dementia cases and all these sort of things, and obviously mental health issues. And I think there must be something in all this screen time, looking at that screen all the time and moving and mobility. And I did I did a big challenge recently. I walked miles and I felt amazing. My body felt great, and now I was moving. That was a bit extreme. I don't expect people to walk for like 7-8 hours a day, but it's just go for a walk. Just get out in nature. It has a massive, get out in the sunlight, vitamin D on your, get your endorphins in your body going. And that's what I try and do, is get out and go for a walk or go to the gym sometimes. And I do feel better after it if I start spiraling.
That's such, and you're right with the whole, like you go back, we ain't got to go back that far, but you go back to lockdown and how much there was such a shift for so many people during that time, right? Oh, how important it was to get out for that one walk a day or that one run or whatever it was. I can't wait to just get out in nature. We had that lovely summer, and people go and everyone you talk to was going, this is a game changer for me. I want to make sure I do this every day, and then go back and we're back to exactly. You look at it and you go, how many people have carried on with those changes, and not we just, society gets hold of us again. We're busy, pretending to be busy, whatever we're doing, scrolling on their phones, because they're just constantly absorbing content and not.
It's dopamine, isn't it? A lot of dopamine hits. Humans love a hit of dopamine, I suppose. It's like a drug. But like I was listening again on the same podcast. It says, dopamine. It's a chemical in your body which is designed to reward hard work. It's like years ago, hunter-gatherers, for example, they're looking at building huts, building shelter, looking for animals, food, and they feel good. And then the same when you go to the gym, when you work hard now, study hard, and you get a dopamine hit off it, but it's a slow chemical that should build up over the time. Now, we can get dopamine. As soon as you look at our phone, we get hits, constantly getting dopamine hits all the time. So your natural body's dopamine is probably burnt out, do you know, that sort of thing. So, and it says, it can display ADHD traits. So there's people out there saying no wonder there's a huge increase in ADHD or so-called ADHD. It's because of all this dopamine up and down hits, up and down, crashing all the time. It's not healthy. Do you know what I mean? And people out there, don't get me wrong, there are cases out there who have got ADHD. I'm not saying there's no ADHD, there is ADHD, but most of the time these people haven't been medically diagnosed, right? They're just diagnosing themselves or Googling it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's quite frightening, that's quite scary, that isn't. It's dangerous, to be honest. Yeah,
because you look at it, I'll go, I'll tick that box, or I'll tick that box, and that sounds like me. I've got, and then labelling themselves, and I think there's some, and it's hard, isn't it? Because what do we need to change? How do we change that? Because you think something like a global pandemic coming in would have, and it did for a short period of time, but then we're back to thinking, and look, modern technology is amazing, AI and all of them things are fantastic, but actually what we're learning and the things that we're talking about is that the importance of getting in nature, the basic things that we had from, in cave times, that just sitting around having a chat with someone, having a conversation, they're so important, and we need to.
Humans are built for connection, and humans love connection. Do you mean? And oxytocin, that was the love chemical in your body. Humans love connection. Do you mean? And it said in the same podcast, the same book I read. Sorry, it's an amazing book. And there's a section about oxytocin on there. He said, try and get 5 hugs a day. And that sounds, 5 hugs is nothing. I don't mean go around hugging random strangers. We're weird. But I say, try and get 5 hugs a day. You think, oh, that's easy, but it's not. If you work from home, you're working from home, you don't see anybody all day, you know, you haven't got no connection, you're sat in front of your desk all day, meeting after meeting, Zoom calls and that, and sometimes you don't even leave the house to go for a walk, you don't have a lunch break, you just work through your lunch, so you're sat there for 8-9 hours, you haven't done any steps, sat in this position, which is not healthy either, hunched over, your shoulders hunched over, you don't see anybody. Do we? And like my partner, for example, she if I'm not going to go and see her, or you know, she got a daughter who's 7. The only person she sees that day is her daughter. When she comes home from school, her daughter won't hug her. She's like that age, she won't hug. So my partner could probably go days without hugging anyone, without any oxytocin. Like, so you think, yeah, that's mad. It's quite a lonely thing working from home. It's quite isolated and lonely. And she walks up to school to pick her daughter up. She has, you know, sees her mummy and daddies at the school, but doesn't really talk to them that much, and goes back home and carries on working on her laptop. And then her and her daughter sit in the house all night. So, or they go out for a walk normally. Obviously, my partner's quite healthy and fit and active, you know. But they don't really see many people either if you're working from home. You don't go into the office at all. So it's quite scary.
And you do. I think like I had some AI experts on, and we was talking about it. And actually, I think the narrative needs to be like, it's a brilliant tool, right? It's a brilliant tool. Modern technology, there's some amazing things going on. But if we utilise it for the right things, hopefully, using that tool will enable get work done a lot quicker. So actually, it creates more time to have to have more human connection.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I love doing this so much, like, to sit and have a chat with someone and look into someone's eyes and connect over sharing their stories. There's nothing I've done in my life that's given me more fulfillment and joy and connection and built relationships based on being able to have a conversation. There's something, for me, as much as AI is amazing, and it is an amazing tool, I'm hoping that people lean into that more to go, right, it's going to do the things I don't need to, so it allows more of this.
Yeah, and it's funny. I went on a retreat on last Friday. On a retreat, and his great guy who runs it, and he's saying all the things we're going back like full circles. All the things, getting back into nature, moving, breath work, meditation, and I say connection. And I say to people when I do my talks, I said everything in life that I enjoy is free. It doesn't cost anything unless you've got a gym membership, but that's not for everyone. But get out and go for a walk, play with the children, play with your grandkids, get your blood in your body flowing. It doesn't cost anything to run around the park or play football or whatever. I say, hugging someone doesn't cost anything. Chatting to someone, go for a walk with someone, meditation, breath work, get out in nature, go in the trees. All that is free. It doesn't cost anything at all. So people that say they've got no money, we don't need money to do anything like that. And I say, well, nature, we are just one with nature, basically, because me and my partner did a guided meditation about 3 weeks ago in a forest where we're not far from where we live, and we thought we were going to go and lie on some mats and lie in this like a building doing yoga, but we didn't. We lay in the forest, like forest bathing. We lay down on the ground in the forest, looking up at the trees, and it was amazing. My partner's lying next to me, and we opened up her eyes after about 45 minutes after the meditation. And she looked up and she goes, we are just like tree. So if you look at our bodies, if you look at a tree, it branches off, it keeps branching off. Like a leaf, you look at a leaf, it branches off. And look at a human body, the lungs, the brain. It's all just branches and pockets and that. So we are one with nature. So there's no coincidence that going into nature, it grounds us and it makes us feel complete, and it calms us down as well. So we need to get out in nature more. The doctors should prescribe us a medicine. What's wrong? I'm depressed. Go for a walk. What? Don't have pills? No, just go for a walk. Do you know what I mean? I think it doesn't cost anything. They wouldn't make no money, the pharmaceutical companies. That's another story altogether. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Just get out, go for a walk. They should prescribe laughing or go for a walk, spending time with loved ones, hugging your mother, hugging your son, or that would cure not a lot of the problems. I'm not saying cure it, but it would help alleviate some of the problems or make somebody feel better about themselves, wouldn't it? Rather than sat in front of their computer on their phone all day.
100%. And like you said, if that's what if we create that environment within, like our kids have just like this Easter break while we're recording this, my kids have gone to forest school, and one of mine, she would go forest school every single
I'd love
day.
to go there. Can I go there? It's for adults too.
I'd
love to be in forest.
I'll tap them up. But they just go and they learn how to build camps, and they're learning about plants, and they're learning about animals, and and she is obsessed with it, and she just loves it. But she's really engaged, less engaged at normal school. But you go forest school and she's lights up, and again trying to go, well, how can we get our children, get that next generation to lean into the things that light them up, lean into the things that they love, and
A lot of it starts at home. And I know it's different. It's hard. It's tough being a parent these days, younger children. Obviously, my son's 23, but being a parent is hard if you've got young children because you got the latest device, the latest gadget. You can't say no, or you can. Then you feel like a bad parent because all their other friends have got it or got this thing on their iPad. They're doing this thing on Fortnite or they're playing on. So if you stop them, you feel a bad one. But I think you've just got to be firm. And yeah, it might feel like a bad dad or a bad mum at that time, but then in the long run, your kids are going to thank you for that in the long run. Then, like, limiting screen time, for example. But I go to restaurants sometimes. Look, I love people watching. I go to some restaurants sometimes, and I remember a couple of weeks ago there was mum and dad, or sort of husband and wife sat there with 2 children. I looked at them. The kids are on their phone, and the parents are on their phone. I look at it thinking, no. And the child plays up then and wants some attention. Just wants some attention and love off his parents or ADHD. So he's on ADHD, he just wants some love and attention off his dad or his mother. But the parents are sat there, the kids are sat there thinking, why aren't you talking to your kids about what day they've had in school, what they're doing tonight, what they're doing in school, what their projects are, what they're working on in school? Why don't you talk about that? So a lot of the time, the parents don't know. How can they educate their children? It's the same with obesity. I'm not saying it's always the case, right? But this is controversial. But sometimes if one of the children, you see a child who's a little bit overweight, normally, if you look at the parents, one or both are overweight as well. So if they don't know how to do it, or they perhaps do, but they don't practice it at home or healthy eating and moving, what chance have their children got? So I think so. We have to do it in schools. I think. Do you know what I mean? And educate the children. So perhaps the children take it home and educate their parents then instead about healthy eating, getting out in nature, and getting dope and all that sort of thing. Perhaps we need to teach it in school because it goes a long way. But then people say, well. That's another story about conspiracy. I'm not going to go down the conspiracy route again, but people say, that they don't want happy people because they don't make money off happy people. If everybody's walking around happy and laughing and joking, there'd be no arguing, there'd be no mental health issues, so then they wouldn't make any money. Those pharmaceutical companies now. So, and universities wouldn't go off to universities. That's another story altogether. But yeah, it's got to happen in schools, I think, as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's some. There is, and as parents, like you said, there's no rule book parenting. People doing the best they can, but it's if we just take it back to basics, love and support, and telling them that you love them every day, and creating those environments for that they're loved, whether they've achieved or not, whatever they're still loved. And I think we create those environments. Yeah, there's a better thing. Talking about obviously growing up, let's go back to the beginning for you. Like, what was growing up in the valleys? What was life growing up? What do I need to know about that period of time, the sort of shape to? Because you've obviously had such a big change over the last couple of years. But talk to us about life growing up and how that sort of shaped, I guess, where you are now. Yeah,
well, I was born into a traditional old-fashioned family, I suppose. My mother and father married 60 years. My dad's 81, my mother's 78. They're a really hard-working family. My dad worked in a factory, worked in the iron ore colliery first of all, then a factory. My mother worked in National Westminster Bank. When my oldest brother Simon was born, who's 9 years older than me, she gave up her career, her job then, to be what we class as an old-fashioned housewife, I suppose, then. And she brought her boys up then, and she went back to work when my youngest brother Carl, who's 7 years younger than me, was old enough to look after himself. And she went back to work as a dinner lady and a cleaner after she had 2 jobs. And she only gave up work last year in a local gift shop, newsagents, because she had a bleed on the brain. So she was still working up to the age of 77 full-time, 5 days a week. So they're really old, hard-working family, and they're old-fashioned traditional values and things. And they love it. They're amazing human beings. They're brilliant parents. They give us everything we wanted as children. Do you know what I mean? But the way they showed their love was a roof over my head, clothes on my back, and food on the table. When it comes to emotions, there was no real emotions or anything shown because they don't know how to. I'm compassionate to my parents now because they don't know how to show their emotions either. Like, my dad's never said he's loved me. My mother's probably said it once maybe. I know they do, and they got different ways of showing it, different love languages. But growing up, we didn't get hugs or all that sort of thing. It's an emotional thing. And my parents are amazing people. I guess it sounds like they're bad. They're not bad people, but they're so old-fashioned and set in their ways. And they got a fixed mindset. If they don't understand something or agree with something, they're stupid. They don't agree with it. Like, do you know what I mean? If you have a Zoom meeting, I said I've had meetings today all day. You haven't left the house all day. You had a Zoom. Oh, that's not a meeting. That's stupid. I said, well, it is a meeting. I've spoke to 2 people in London, one in Manchester, one in Birmingham. And if I had to drive, the way you class a meeting is putting a shirt and tie on, leaving the house, driving to that other place, meeting and coming back. That's a meeting in your eyes, I said. But that's not a meeting. That's not stupid. That's not a meeting. But it is a meeting. But I said, if I had to drive around these people and see them face to face, that would have taken me days and days and days, plus spent hundreds of pounds in fuel and hotels. I've done 5 meetings and left the house in about 5 hours. Oh, that's stupid. But they don't get it. They don't understand it. Like, my parents, they don't drive. None of them have ever driven a car, my mother and father. Never been abroad on holidays. They have the same meals every night. They fix that, they watch the same soaps on television, Emmerdale Farm, Coronation Street. They're creatures of habit. They haven't got internet. They haven't got mobile phones. They're lovely people, but they're just stuck in, they're old-fashioned people, do you know what I mean? And so I was brought up, you're a real man, you're a strong man. You can't show feelings and emotions. Work hard, try your best. But they give us good morals, good, values, be polite, respectful to the older generation, respectful, take your shoes off when you go into somebody's house, just polite. So all four of us are exactly the same. So rugby was a massive thing in my house as well. My two older brothers played rugby at a very good standard. I played rugby, my younger brother played rugby, the four of us. So rugby growing up, you're born with like a rugby ball in your hands at 5 years of age. And sport is mad. So the testosterone in my house growing up was just ridiculous, and the competitiveness in my house. So losing a game of rugby on the weekend, we were in the worst bit. It was going home and facing my brothers and having the mick taken out to you for losing that game. Like, that was the worst bit about it. So I had a good upbringing. Do you know what I mean? We're a close family. I know we all love each other. We don't show it. We don't speak to each other about emotions or feelings. Like, my brother went through a divorce a few years ago. Nobody phoned him to see if he was okay or picked up the phone. We just don't do that sort of thing in my house. We just don't. So I was brought up in that environment, I suppose. My mother and father pushed their beliefs onto me. Foreigners come to this country, people on benefits, and I grew up listening to all that sort of thing all my life. They don't, the generation they come from. So we're clean, well fed. We were a good upbringing. Just didn't have any emotional stuff, I suppose.
Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast.
And how does that, where you are now, because you just mentioned when we first started talking about, being in touch with your vulnerable side, you know what I mean, leaning into that a little bit more, being more open and honest about feelings and stuff. Is your mum and dad and your brothers, I suppose, have they seen that side of you now and appreciated it, or started to look at it and go, if your brothers sort of go, maybe I can open up a little bit as well, or just go, nah, what's he talking about?
So I feel like a bit of a fraud, Satya, to be honest, but I talk about it all the time. There's hundreds of people I've spoken to about it over the last couple of years, but we don't talk about it in my family still. It's been like 46 years, for me, 46 years of trying to undo 46 years of, and it's hard. I mean, it's difficult. We don't really show ourselves feelings and emotions. Like my mother and father, for example, we'd go to on every Sunday. Remember, they used to do like a family dinner or family tea, and all the boys would go there with their partners, with kids and everything. All the boys then end up in one room. My dad watching Scrum 5 on the telly, normally rugby. So all the men were in one room, the living room, and all the girls, the wives and the partners and everything were in the other room, my mum. So that's what it was. We had all the boys in one room, and all the nephews were in there, talking about sport, rugby, boxing, football. Then we didn't talk. I suppose growing up, we now know it. We now call it toxic masculinity, but not just in my household. But where I grew up as well, the environment I grew up in, I was in rugby clubs from 5 years of age, in a gym from 14 years of age. I've been a doorman. So probably the three worst categories of toxic masculinity. But I say to people, you can't have a go if you want to, I said, or not just me, any young boy. I said, but where do young boys learn how to be a man or how to be men? I said, watching older boys in their local area, down the pitch, rugby field, the rugby clubs, whatever. I said, so I was like 13 years of age, watching older men, say things and do things and thinking, is that what it's like to be a man, is it? It was misogynistic. I was part of the misogynistic culture, I suppose, saying jokes about like girls and laughing and joking and that. So, but I said I didn't know any different about it, and most boys don't know how to do any different about it. The four measures I had growing up what a man was, or I thought what a man was: how many pints you could drink, how many girls you'd been out with, how much you could bench press, and how many fights you had, and won. So the four measures. If you had 20 pints, you're a tough man, real hard man. 2 pints, people laughed at you. Do you know how many girls said, you're a virgin? And so I said, you laugh, and people laugh about it. But I said, I guarantee at least your brothers, your sister, your brothers, your fathers, your uncles have been through some form of peer pressure when it comes to one of them 4 subjects. Whether it's girls, whether it's fights, see him, he knocked out, he's hard, man, he knocked him out. Do you know what I mean? It was mad, and like up the rugby club I used to go to, that's all the conversation used to be about, and I couldn't imagine going up to my mate and say, "Oh, can I have a chat to you? I feel a bit low and a bit down." Oh, I wouldn't say, I don't really swear on you, but you know, if I said that to one of my boys at the rugby club, my mates, years ago, he'd look at me as if I was, what are you on about? And he'd be round the rugby club before I got back in the bar. Oh, he's like, and that's what it'd be like. They'd all gossip about it. Do you know what I mean? They all talk about it in the rugby club and take the piss out of you, basically. Do you know what I mean? And I got to have a chat with me and my partner, and very good. I could never have a conversation like that years ago at the rugby club. Do you know what I mean? It was all about all macho, this bravado, this toxic masculinity nonsense you put on. Do you know what I mean?
So having that upbringing and going to what changed for you to be able to go, that's not right. Like, why you're looking at that life and you're looking at that type of role model and that type of man that you were or you become, and what changed for you to go, hang on, why was you so curious? Why have you questioned that and gone, that's not what I need to change. I need to be this guy.
Well, a lot of it, I was obviously involved in a very serious road traffic accident on the 20th of August 1999 when there was 5 people in my car. I was driving. I hit a curb on the left-hand side, flipped onto the right. I went out the driver's side window, so my head and my arm were dragged along the floor for a couple of hundred yards. So, and then when the car stopped sliding, it was leaning on top of me. So when the emergency services turned up with the vehicle, they were asking the people in the car different questions, and they said, "Oh, he's dead." So they thought I was dead on the side of the road. And then I had a couple of blood transfusions there and then on the side of the road. They took me to one hospital in Wales called the Royal Gwent, which is in Newport, but there was nothing they could do for me there. So I had to have a police escort then down from there, down to Swansea, down to Morriston. That's where neurology was and plastic surgery at the time. So I had a police escort down to there. And while all that was going on, my mother and father got the dreaded knock on the door from a policeman to say, "You've got to come with us now. Your son's been involved in a road traffic accident, an RTA." And they said, "Oh, we'll get changed. We'll come with you now." And they said, "You haven't got time to get changed. You have to come now. It's critical." So they weren't allowed to get changed. They were put in the back of a police car then, and they were blue lighted from where they live down to Newport, the first hospital, which is probably about 20 minutes away. But as soon as they got to the hospital, I was on a trolley coming out of that hospital to be put in the back of an ambulance to get transferred to the other hospital. They weren't allowed to see me because I was in such a bad way. As you can imagine, my head being dragged on the tarmac wasn't a pretty sight. My dad said, "Can I go in the back of the ambulance?" And they said, "No, you're not allowed. You've got a doctor in the back, a nurse, and all machinery keeping your son alive." And they were told they don't think I'm going to make the trip from Newport down to Swansea, which is probably about 40 minutes away. So they didn't think I was going to make that trip. So then my mother and father in a police car, they followed the ambulance, blue lighted me down the M4 motorway, down to the hospital then, and they followed in the car behind. And they took me to theatre. As soon as I got to the hospital, I went to theatre, because I smashed my skull. I had nothing on top of my head, no hair, no skin, nothing on top of my head. So it was dragged along the floor. And they had to take all the skin off the back of my head and put it onto the top of my head. And I had to take all the bone out of my brain, because I smashed my skull, the big hole in my skull, and it was embedded in my brain. So that was the first operation I had that night. And then I was in a coma then for 4 weeks in intensive care. And my family got called in on a few occasions to say, he's not looking good, he's not going to make it. And then when I did start recovering, they said, from the scans we've done on your son, he's got severe brain damage. There's lots of shadowing on his brain, which meant dead tissue. So he said if he wakes up, he might not wake up, but if he does, he's not going to recognise anyone, walk, talk, use his arms and legs ever again. So I woke out of my coma. I remember who people were, luckily. My mother and father were standing on my bed. I didn't know where I was or what happened. And then the doctors came around a few days later and said, "You're never going to walk again." And I said, "I guarantee I'll walk at this hospital." And he said, "He won't." I said, "I will." And my mother said, "It's embarrassing. Like, you're lying in bed with all these tubes coming out everywhere and a tracheotomy in, like, sound like Darth Vader, and a tracheotomy in, and the man is trying to tell you you're not going to walk again. You're arguing with him, telling you are going to walk again." And I did. I learned to walk again. It took me about 2 weeks, I think, to learn to walk again. But like, it was scary. The first time they got me out of bed, it was after about 2 months they got my back. They got me out of bed. I felt sick straight away. I had to sit back down because I was lightheaded. But then she eventually got me up the physio on the bars, like stood on the bars. And I literally could not find my legs. It was a weird feeling. I couldn't find my legs. I couldn't remember how to walk. I thought, oh, shit, I can't remember how to walk. At the time, I was 21. I was fit, strong. I was playing a lot of rugby and all that sort of thing. And she had to pick my feet up and put one in front of the other. And I remember at my break, I remember how to walk then, my muscle memory and everything. I remember how to walk, luckily. And I learned to walk then. So, yeah. So the physical injuries were horrendous. But my biggest challenge will obviously lay ahead, my mental health, unbeknown to anybody.
I mean, just take us back to that. From a mindset point of view, you again, that point, you've just been through that just horrific accident, being told that you're not going to walk again, but your first reaction, where does that mindset come from? That strength of a mindset to come go, no, I'm going to walk again. I have that.
I wish I had some like amazing guru answer to give you, but I don't. So even though I said bringing, being my upbringing was amazing, great upbringing, I'm no emotional support or anything. But on the other hand, being brought up having two older brothers and being competitive, being strong, and that helped me probably save my life. Or being fit and strong helped me save my life. I was doing a lot of running and training and weight training. That's what saved my life. They told me. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be here now. But having that mindset and belief of being a winner. And when somebody tells me I can't do something, I'll do it. I'll do it 10 times better. But I was 21 at the time, and no disrespect, people in wheelchairs. I know a few people in wheelchairs who broke their neck playing rugby and things, but I knew you'd adapt and all that sort of thing. But I couldn't go from being fit and healthy from 5 to 21 to being in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So I determined I'd prove them wrong. And I did, do you know what I mean? So, I got nothing. I wish there was something I could say to the listeners out there who are struggling to say, oh, I can do that. Because I don't know, something just to keep belief, I suppose. Self-belief, that's what I think it is, actually. I've just thought of that now. Just believe in yourself. And I say to people all the time when I do my talks, you've got to believe in yourself. I said, the only person you can ever truly rely on in life, not your wife, your husband, your dad, your mum, your kids, is you, the person looking back in the mirror. So be kind to yourself and believe in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself. And I lost my belief. God, 20 odd years probably, I didn't believe in myself. Yeah, so I suppose it's having a self-belief, believing in myself.
And then, so you mentioned there, like, obviously, as well about that, obviously the next 20 years of a bigger challenge of mental health. I'm just trying to picture like being in the position you were, and you then going, I do believe in myself, I'm going to get through this, and doing it, then starting to walk and surviving and being okay. Because like you said, not only not being able to walk, but talking about brain damage and all of the other things that the doctor had mentioned that would potentially happen to you, and you've got rid of all them, and you've gone, nah, I'm fine, and I'm going on. I'm going to live that. But not being able to take that belief and talk to us about that next 20 years and that process. I guess the journey of the struggles that you faced through that period.
It was awful. It was tough. Do you know what I mean? And I was a man, supposedly. I couldn't talk about feelings and emotions. So after my accident, they said you should have counselling or therapy or something. What you've been through is horrendous. And I thought, I was a 21-year-old ignorant, macho, invincible kid. I thought, no, I'm not seeing a counsellor or a therapist. I thought I'd see somebody in a white coat, some academic, some intelligent person who'd try and judge me, psychoanalyse me, get inside my head. And I thought, no, I'm not seeing that. I couldn't talk to my family because we don't talk about feelings and emotions. Like, they'd never asked me about the accident, ever. Never to ask what happened.
Still to today?
No, never. I will go into that in a bit, I suppose, but yeah, not really. And so I bottled things up. I put a mask on every single day, put a smile on my face after work every day. Behind closed doors, I hated myself, hated what I saw in the mirror. I call myself a freak every single day. Because when I get in the morning, I go and do my hair ready for work in the mirror. And the first thing I focus on is my skin graft and my scars on above my left eye here. And I couldn't accept compliments of people. People say to me, "Oh, you got nice eyes," or "You smile nice." Thing, "Oh, you're just being polite. You're being nice." I didn't even notice the scars. People used to say, "Oh, that's bullshit. Of course you did." I said, "No, I didn't. I didn't. Only until you pointed it out and made a point of it. I didn't really care or notice about them." But I couldn't accept that for many, many years. I come as a freak every day. When people just come to my mother and father's house to visit them, I'd run upstairs and hide in the bedroom. I don't want nobody to see me. And like my mother says, listen to her own son call himself a freak every day. It was heartbreaking for my mother to hear her own son saying that to himself. Like, I say things to myself I wouldn't say to my brothers, my friends, my worst enemy, but I say it to myself every single day. I say, like, positive and negative self-talk is so important. You think it's only a couple of words saying it, but your body doesn't know the difference between real and not, and if you're joking or not. Like, so I say to people, be kind to yourself, do you know what I mean? And yeah, so my life was literally a car crash, excuse the pun, for years. Do you know what I mean? I'd self-sabotage anything good happening to me, and I couldn't accept it. I was like, I was punishing myself. I couldn't accept it. I used to ask myself questions all the time. Why am I still here? And I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual, but not really religious. But thinking, well, there must be a reason I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I come close to death. And like, actually, when I woke out of my coma, and when I woke out of my coma, the first question I said to my mother and father, how is Carl and how is James? Carl is my younger brother at the time. He was 14. And James was my partner at the time, his dad. Bug, his name was. His nickname was Bug. So I said, I was Carl, I was Bug. He said, what do you mean? And I said, they're in the car with me. And my mother said, you were adamant they were in the car. I was arguing with my mother, she said, if you spoke to my mother. I said, they were in the car with me. I said, they weren't. Carl was in bed. My brother was in bed. He's 14 on a Saturday. And then her dad was in London working. He worked for Lang O'Rourke's, doing tower cranes and all that sort of thing. he was in London working, he worked away. And I said, I was in this corridor, walking up this dark, dark corridor with really bright white light at the end of it. I was walking down this corridor, I was going to walk into this light. All of a sudden, I heard names calling me from behind. So I get emotional, sorry. And I don't talk about it very often. And I heard some voices calling me from behind. So I turned round, I looked up the corridor, and my brother was there, and her dad. I don't know why them two. I was close to my brother, because my two older brothers left home when they were older than me. Me and my younger brother were at home, grew up together, I suppose. That's why we're closer. And then it was her dad, and my brother. So I stopped, I looked at them, I looked at the light, I looked back and forth at them and the light for a couple of minutes, it seemed like. I turned around, I walked back up the tunnel towards my brother and her dad, and I woke up then a couple of days later. So, so I don't know, you see it on the telly and you think, oh, a load of bullshit. But yeah, I don't know if it's true or what, I don't know, it could have been lights in the theatre, I don't know what it was. But yeah, I don't know, something's out there, I don't know what is out there. And so that was my, growing up, and so that was my, off tangent now, sorry, I didn't know I was going to talk about that. I just dropped that in there, I don't know why I come on to that. Yeah, but I think it's quite a powerful thing, and so I've come so close to death, and yeah.
Wow, I mean, where to start with that? Because you listen to you talk about that, and as you're sharing it, thinking, whatever our religious beliefs or whatever we think about the universe or whatever that is, that you're in that as close to possibly death as you. But and is it? Do you sort of listening to you talk about it and looking back at that period, and whether you've asked yourself that question, but that it just wasn't your time. That just wasn't your time to go.
Yeah.
And where you are right now is that because you were put on this earth for a purpose. You were put on the purpose to share that, to share your story, to show what can be achieved, and actually to spread the positivity and the love and the message that you're promoting now. That's hopefully helping save other lives, right?
Yeah, like I say, I refused counselling after my accident. I couldn't talk to my family. But then 15 years after my accident, I went to see a counsellor through Lloyd's Bank. There was something called Validium, like a wellbeing program for the staff and everything. So I went to see a counsellor, or a therapist, I don't know, but I don't know what the difference is between a counsellor and a therapist. But the woman I saw was amazing. She wasn't what I was expecting at all. So I highly recommend anybody. I still have, now and again, I go and see a therapist now to have a chat, and it's nice to get things off your chest. But people, years ago, there's a stigma around it. Like in America, everybody sees a therapist all the time. It's normal. In this country, if you say you've seen a counsellor or a therapist, people automatically think you're sitting in a corner, rocking back and forth, crying, or you're broken, or you're in a funny farm, or something wrong with you. So no, it's every single person on this planet has got some form of trauma they're dealing with inside. It hasn't got to be a big T or a big trauma. A broken finger could be a trauma for somebody, but the emotional reactions off the back of it are the same. And they lock away inside you, and you've got to deal with it. Otherwise, it'll come back and bite you on the ass. And it could be 1 year, 10 years, 20 years' time. It'll be something that'll trigger it. It'll be something that might cut you up on the road. Somebody might say something wrong to you. All of a sudden, you'll flip, and then you'll either do something totally out of character, try and take your own life, or do something crazy. So you've got to deal with your trauma. And so 15 years after my accident, the woman I saw was amazing. And after the first session, she goes, I know what's wrong with you. I said, what's that? PTSD or depression? She goes, yeah, you got them as well, probably, but, you're grieving. I said, grieving? What do you mean grieving? That's when you die. And this is obviously about 10 years ago now. I know a lot about it. I talk about it sometimes now, and I said, what do you mean grieving? She goes, no, all I've heard of you today is, I used to play rugby, I used to do this, I used to. You're grieving your whole life. She goes, loss of identity. She goes, people grieve all the time. When you're tendering in work for a big project that doesn't come off after a couple of months, that's grieving. When you move departments in work, get transferred in work, lose your job, get made redundant, have to give up your sport, or a broken leg. Grieving's a massive thing. And she goes, even when they have people who have children grieve, they can't go out as much. They haven't got as much freedom, as much money. So even though it's a happy thing, grieving's a massive problem and nobody ever really talks about it. It's like it's a taboo subject. As soon as you hear grieving, you automatically think it's a physical death. Yeah, that is it as well. And every single person will grieve at some stage, whether it's a physical loss or loss of a job or something. So I was grieving my whole life, I suppose, because growing up, the only way I thought of making my dad proud was playing rugby. I was a rugby boy. I think growing up, rugby and all that, the only time I ever spent with my dad, quality time talking, was about rugby. Before the game on the Saturday or the Sunday, I talk about, I'm playing this on the weekend, we got this team, we played them. After the game, we talk about the game. So I couldn't play rugby anymore. I lost my connection with my dad, which was really important. And my three brothers are still playing rugby at a very good standard as well. So I'd see my dad interacting with my brothers on a Sunday. We all went for that family dinner tea. We all be in the one room. My brothers were saying, I played rugby yesterday. I done this. I had a fight. I scored a try, kicked this. I'm sat there thinking, what can I talk about? I can't talk. I can't contribute to the conversation. So I thought that my brothers were better than me. I thought my dad didn't love me. He's never told me he loved me. And I thought I know it sounds crazy when I say it now, but I didn't think he loved me anymore. I couldn't make him proud anymore. And your dad, as a young boy, you want your dad to make you proud of you, I suppose. So I lost that connection with my dad because I couldn't play rugby anymore. So the counsellor I saw was amazing. And I was trapped. There's 7 stages of grief. I was trapped between number 2 and 6, I think, really. You know, arguing, depression, bargaining. Why is it happening to me? Why am I still here? Because she said to me, she goes, every now and again, do you go quiet and ask yourself loads of questions in your head? I said, yeah. And she goes, you'll never answer them questions. You'll never get answers to them questions, she said. You just got to accept what's happened to you. Otherwise, it's going to eat you up for the rest of your life, she said. This is you now. This is the new you. This is the life now. You got to accept it and move on. So, yeah, it was right. I used to ask myself questions in my head all the time. Is it a God? Why did God keep me here? And why am I on this planet? And I say, well, I wish there were some dark days for years. Like, I wish I was dead. I wish I wasn't here anymore. I was a hindrance to my family, the stress I put them through. I was lying in bed, get out of bed every day. It was hard work. I lie in bed looking up at the ceiling, just crying, tears streaming in my face. And I couldn't get out of bed. And that's depression. And people say they got depression now. I say, no, you haven't got depression. You're on a bad day. That's depression. It's crippling. You can't get out of bed some days. So I struggled for years in silence. I wore a mask for years. Nobody ever saw that. My parents never saw that because I didn't want to show them. My son never saw it.
Did you talk to anyone about that?
No. Not for years, no. No, because I couldn't talk about it because I thought, you're a man. You just don't get feelings and emotions. You've got to man up and get on with it. Put a shirt and tie and go off to my job every day, big smile on my face, bend clothes. I hated myself. Like that, you know, most people wear masks, men especially wear masks. Even these days, even though it's getting better, it's moving in the right direction, but suicide rates are going up. So something's breaking down somewhere. And I think it's about, you know, encouraging men and giving permission for them to talk and open up and not judging them. So it's really important to have a good support network around you, which I've got now.
And what got you through those dark days? Because, like, you know, me and you have connected up. I've spoke openly about some of the dark periods I've been through as well. And you know, but what got you out of those dark days when you are lying there and you're crying but you still got up and carried on?
My son being born, I suppose. I don't recommend people going out having children if they're struggling with mental health and saying, oh, Andrew said it would help my mental health. I'm not saying that, but he gave me a purpose in life again. I wanted to be a good role model and a good father to my son, like my dad was to me, I suppose. And I drag myself out of bed every day and take him to his football, his rugby, and just turn up for my son every time, all the time. And so he saved my life, I suppose. And not physically. He didn't save my life literally, but yeah, he gave me a purpose in life again. I don't know where I'd be now if he wasn't born. It was tough. Do you know what I mean? It was tough, me and his mother. It was tough when he was born. We were 23. She was in university in Bristol, and she was pregnant, and it was tough. It was stressful for years, and but looking back, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and he's such a good kid. I'm so proud of him now, and so he saved my life, I suppose, in many, many ways, and he gave me a purpose in life again, and he was my why, and he still is my why now.
Thank you for sharing that. I guess I so resonate as well. I really do. I shared. I remember on the. Gosh, you got me getting it. But both Cynthia. I tell you what, it's going to be an emotional episode, people.
Good luck for the first editing of this.
But I still remember walking back in that day. I decided no, I didn't want to be here. I remember walking back in and the kids running up to me and kind of like it was. Just that realisation for me that I was surrounded by love, and you go, all the things that I was putting pressure on myself that I didn't like myself for, that I hadn't achieved, and all them things you go in, you just think, so listening to you talk like that, you know, and I'm really keen to explore as well, like then the relationship with yourself. Have you ever told him that about that? Well, like you say. You feel that he saves your life. Have you ever told that to him?
He knows that. Obviously, we've done lots of like podcasts and interviews and everything together. And yeah, like I say, so 15 years after my accident, out of counselling, my life didn't automatically change then. It didn't. It just made me aware of it, I suppose. So it was still a bit of a disaster after that. And then I started working on myself. I didn't like the version of myself I was. I look at my life and I think my body was okay. My partner was really pretty. I had a nice house, good job, good car. And I was thinking, if I was a man looking at my life on the outside, I'd want what I had, like, but I was still, miserable. I was not miserable. I was thinking, when will I be happy? Like, I'll never be happy. If I won the lottery, I won't be happy. And it's because I would climb this ladder, everybody else's expectations, not my expectation, not living my life the way I wanted to live it. So I started working on myself. I started reading things and doing lots of work on myself. And then I'm in a good place. I tracked the man down who saved my life, the Professor Lang, who operated on me the night of the accident on that date. So I tracked him down, a bit creepy, on Google. So I sent him a long email saying, you probably don't remember who I am. And he replied a few days later saying, of course I remember who you are. And then we communicated via email. And then I arranged to go and see him then. And God, it was an emotional day. It's not every day you get the chance to meet the man who saved your life. And I know you had a team of people around him, but he was the main surgeon. So I went to the place where he was to see him. And he said, you're a miracle. You should have died on so many occasions, he said, but I can't believe how big and strong you are. And so hearing it from the horse's mouth made me realise how close I was to death. And he made me think, there's no Andrew Jenkins part 2 or the sequel. This is my life now. And I can either spend the next 30, 40 years with a chip on my shoulder, resentful, pissed off, angry. I lost my rugby career, this, my looks and all that sort of thing, no comments. And all that. Or I can use my trauma for good to help inspire other people. It's called post-traumatic growth. So it's like when the Paralympians, they lost a leg in Afghanistan, for example. Don't get me wrong, it's horrendous what happens to them. But now, they're winning gold medals, they're getting MBEs, they're doing great things off the back of their trauma. It's like me now. What happened to me was horrendous, but now I'm helping inspire people, I'm changing lives, I'm helping. So it's great now. And I got asked the question a few months ago now on a panel. I never thought about it before. Somebody said to me, do you prefer your life before the accident or after the accident? And up until a couple of years ago, a year or so, not long ago, I would have said before the accident probably, because scarring, playing rugby and all that sort of thing. But I said, no, I've accepted what happened to me. I've accepted I'm happy the way I look. I like myself again. So I like my life now. I wouldn't change my life now. Do you know what I mean? So if it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be doing I wouldn't be sat in front of you now. I wouldn't be doing what I do now. So I've accepted, and that's the final stage of grieving. Number 7 is acceptance. So I'm only now in acceptance. I don't know if I'm there fully yet, but I'm working on myself. I'm a work in progress. Like everybody's a work in progress. But I'm still working on myself. I'm far from perfect, but I'm moving the right direction every day.
Mate, it's so inspiring to hear you talk like, and I guess a couple of things for me. One, being in the position you were when you go back to that accident and you come out of it. Like some people would say, like, almost you've got a second chance at life, but you're saying that's only sort of sunk in really in the last couple of years. You didn't feel like that, like these last 20 years. You hadn't felt like I've been given another opportunity at life and I want to embrace it. It was more not even feeling sorry for you, but just more feeling like this isn't fair. This has happened to me. It stopped me taking away.
Playing the victim. I was not a victim. I was playing. People say you live every day as if it's your last. I bet you live. Yeah, that's great in fairy tales, in textbooks. Yeah, it's great that is. But when you've got bills, work, stress in life, it's hard to do that. I'd love to do that. If I had unlimited money, I would do that. I'd love to go on holidays and travel, see the world and that. But realistically, I touch on it all the time. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. Life is not like that. Do you know what I mean? And I'd love to. Yeah, you do. Yeah, I wasn't grateful, I suppose, for life, because I suppose when you're struggling with your mental health and all that sort of thing, you can't see it. It's like being at the bottom of a well. You can see the light at the top of the tunnel at the well, but you can't get up out of that. You can't get up out of that well. You keep on slipping back all the time. You take 2 steps forward, it's 4 steps back, and you got people around you maybe want to help you, and there probably was people around me, but I was so in this bad place myself. I didn't want any help of anybody else. I wouldn't accept help of anyone else and that. So I probably pushed people away, lots of people away, hurt loved ones, and upset people, I suppose, over the years, because I was in a bad place. And yeah, it's only the last couple of years I've started appreciating things more now. Do you know what I mean? But for the last 20 years, it was a disaster. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a disaster. I learned a lot. That's what forms part of my talks now is, I suppose, my learnings. No disrespect to academic people. They're brilliant people, but I've literally walked the walk, I've talked the talk, and I've been through most things in life: depression, toxic masculinity, been told I can't do something, overcome adversity. So I fit into lots of holes. Do you know what I mean? But I've talked from the heart. And I talk with passion because I genuinely care and I genuinely want to help people and support people. I'm not doing it for the money. I do it because I want to help people. I don't want people to suffer like I did for 24 years in silence, really. So I don't know, people, academics stand up and they talk, but they've learned a textbook for 5 years. What do they know? No disrespect, but they don't know how to, by this age, or flick to page 10, by this time you should be feeling this. Everybody's different. You can't broad brush everyone. Every single person treats trauma, emotions differently. You know what I mean? So, and people say that. They want people who've got lived experience, real life people who've overcome adversity, who've been through it. They want to know, well, how did you do that? how to do this, how to do that. They want to know how, so they can implement it then in their lives, with their friends, their family, their loved ones in the workplace.
I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing.
Where do we start to fix this problem, right? Because I listen to you talk, listen to your incredible story and your incredible journey, and getting to that point of going, I am now grateful for the life I've got. Sharing the importance of talking, sharing the importance of getting out in nature, all of them things. The statistics are still going up, right? I shared with you last night, it was 84 men die of suicide in the UK every single week.
It's crazy.
And their numbers are going up, right? So where do we start to change this? What do we do?
Oh, it's a big question. God, it's tough. It is moving in the right direction, but it's very, very slowly. As you said, the figures are going up on rate of suicide, which is disgusting. As people's brothers, fathers, do you know what I mean? They're dying all the time, and I think that figure's probably higher than that, to be honest, probably in the 100. And that's just in the UK, let alone worldwide. And I think it's just pressure, the societal pressure on people, you know, the money side of things, your career and all that sort of thing. And, you know, you get to these, you know, work in this life, and you get to this life, you're thinking, like I was, you think, oh, you get to the, normally it's about 45, I think a lot of people say the average statistic is when you get to this age, you've worked hard, slaved out, you've worked in 12 hours a day, building a career and building a nice home. And it's constant pressure to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the people. There's money all the time, and cost of living's going up, and it's huge pressure on not just being, it's not men, it's equality, women are the same. The women are more career-oriented as now they were years ago, but it's still a lot of pressure on men, I think, to be the provider and be the career. But you get to the top of this ladder, and you're thinking, oh, what's next? Like, do you mean, you don't feel fulfilled because you climbed the wrong ladder. You climbed everybody else's ladder, not your own ladder. And I think we need to educate the next generation in schools, universities, colleges, and that sort of thing. You know, going into schools from the age of 11 to say 22 or younger. I don't know, but 11 to 22, I think, probably. And, you know, to explaining about positive masculinity. Stop talking about toxic masculinity and start, you know, embodying and embracing positive masculinity, and, you know, teaching the children that talking about feelings and emotions is not a weakness. It's brave and courageous, actually. So I say to children now, I said, if you're struggling with your exams, with your relationship, talk to somebody. I bottled things up for 24 years and made myself ill, made myself bad, basically bottling things up, not talking about it. You know, but talking about things makes you braver and stronger, I think, personally. Like in this country, we think vulnerability is a weakness, but it's not, it's a strength. Being vulnerable is a real strong thing. And I say, yeah, I love working with children. I want to help be a good role model for the next generation. And I want to try and get into as many schools as possible, as colleges and that. And because when I stand up in front of the school, I'm a big guy. I've been a doorman, I've been on the television, I've done this, I've done that. So kids listen to me. And obviously saying, like, they do listen to me. And I say, I cry. Well, you cry. You're a big, strong man. You've got scars. You're tough. Yeah, I cry. I cry over films. I cry over music. Does that make me weak? No, it doesn't make me weak. I can still lift lots in the gym, but I'm also in touch with my feelings and emotions. And at the moment, I'm really worried and concerned for young white men at the moment because they feel lost. And I'm hearing of hundreds of young boys at the moment as well, where everybody gets labels, and I'll touch on that in a little bit as well. Labels. I say there's a huge movement forward in the rights of women, equality, which I'm totally 100% for that. Right, different ethnic minorities, religions, always move forwards in all them people. The only people that are not really working on being moving forward is young white men. And they're feeling left behind at the moment. They end up going on social media, following idiots like, they all know him all about, following him, thinking, that's what sort of man is. Totally misogynistic, but then they feel part of something, and they think they follow him then, which is totally wrong. But they feel, at least they feel included or feel part of something there, it's totally wrong. So yeah, we got to help support the next generation, I suppose, especially young white men, as brothers, sisters, fathers, support the kids, support the boys, and all young men, regardless of colour, race, creed, or whatever. Just support everybody. Be nice and kind.
And again, and I agree. I've seen there's that Lost Boys report out, and they're saying exactly that about these young boys that are falling behind. I think and obviously because of the work I do in this space, and I'm really, I'm obviously passionate as you are about that, and I think what come to my attention in a conversation I had recently as well, we're still far away from an equal society, right? Someone shared still on the podcast about still 1 in 4 women are sexually abused, and as much as we're moving to an equal society, we are still far behind. Women still have got a long way to catch up. So I'm acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging that we're still in a society where that's still a major problem. But actually, it is still a focus on the young boys for a couple of different reasons. One, that we got to get them away from that toxic masculinity and encourage. And I'm wondering how we tackle that. How we tackle that with the young boys in the education to get them away from that. Where does that start? Is it with people like yourself, like you said, we're going, you know what? Look how you view me as a strong man, but I can deal with my emotions. I can get upset and emotional, and I can show my vulnerable side. Because is it that we even maybe do we go younger than limit? Is it that we just teach kids, and all kids, but we're talking about young boys now, just to process and understand emotion?
Yeah.
Is that, if you had to choose one thing, would that be the thing that you'd think would be the?
Yeah, I think, and obviously you change your language and change depending on the age group. We don't want to go into too much detail and too technical with the younger people, I suppose. Yeah, but it's giving them, like you said, a basic knowledge and that sort of thing, and maybe go into sports clubs, rugby, football, any type of man's sport. So it's going into them younger age, mini rugby, mini football, junior football, and going in and talking to and even perhaps the coaches, perhaps the coaches need to do a qualification in well-being or masculinity or positive masculinity as well. Because as a coach, I've coached kids for years and years and years rugby. I got my level 1, level 2 rugby union and rugby league coaching badges. And you end up becoming like a second father for some of these kids. And some of these kids come from a broken home. Their dad's not around, or their dad's just not interested. So you end up like a little counsellor to these children, the younger people, and they look up to you and listen to you, and they open up and tell you things where I'm okay now. But back years ago, I wouldn't know how to deal with some of the things kids tell you, and you think, oh God, and you just wouldn't deal with it at all. You just ignore it, and you just off. But I should have perhaps dealt with things years ago. Young, but you haven't got the tools. I wasn't given the tools as a coach. You give them the basics of rugby, but I think now you've got to. It's more than rugby. It's more about football, rugby, not just rugby. I talk about rugby. That's what I was, but it's for football, tennis, cricket, whatever the sports, athletics. It's about giving the coaches the tools to be able to have an emotional conversation with the children as well about well-being and mental health as well, because. Sport does play a big part of your mental health as well. I mean, and these academies now, you get dropped from your academy. You think you're going to be the next Ronaldo, the next Messi. All of a sudden, you're dropped from the academy at 13, 14, 15 years of age. And you think your life is over. You think, what are you going to do now? So there's no real follow-up or support for them kids. I spoke to somebody recently in Wales whose son has been dropped from one of the rugby academies in Wales. He's been there for 5 years. All of a sudden, he got dropped from the academy by a text message at 15. He said he thinks his life is over. He thinks he's going to be the next Alan Wynne-Jones. All of a sudden, he's dropped from the academy with no feedback. And I understand you can't, all of them can't make it, but at least do it the right way and say, look, you've been dropped, being released. These are the reasons why. Give them an action plan or give them feedback on how they can get better and how they can work on. Not just drop them. They're walking on these tracksuits, these Welsh Ospreys tracksuits. All of a sudden, they're gone. And a lot of these kids end up going on the wrong road then. They end up drinking, smoking, drugs, fighting, just get attention. They're lost again. They're lost. So they need to be nurtured and looked after properly, mentored properly, these people who get dropped from these sporting academies. So going to sports schools and sporting academies, I think, would be a big thing. And then, like you said, a ripple effect. So even if the kids don't play sport, they're going to bother with somebody who does play football, rugby, cricket, golf, or whatever, and they can have the ripple effect there. Because it's going to be hard to speak to all the kids and all the children in this country, I suppose. But if you're speaking to the majority, which is majority of the kids do some form of sport, I suppose, and it's going to have the ripple effect on the others then, hopefully.
And I guess the other side as well is the role that parents play in this, right? and we've both shared that it's fucking hard work being a parent. There's no rule book. You become a father, become a mother. And there's no rule book. There you go, crack on, and deal with it. So, but what role parents? I guess like what do we provide for parents in a way of being able to communicate? Like I think you mentioned, I heard you talk about before about you've got that thing where you sit on a naughty step or like. Didn't communicate with people. You've just done something bad. You're bad. Go away with it. Because parents haven't got the tools or the toolkit to be able to process their own emotions. So how can they then do that with their own kids? So, I mean, where do we start with parents in that sense as well?
It is tough. Exactly. I think maybe schools maybe should put on some form of evening classes, but. I don't know whether the parents attend that's another matter, I suppose, but try and offer the parents some form of support. The parents out there are struggling at the moment. I mean, both parents are working, and I get that. I mean, years ago, my mother and father, for example, my mother could afford to stay home and be a housewife. My dad was working, but the cost of living has gone up ridiculous now, so both parents have got to work. So, when you're working at home, especially working from home as well, you've got a little girl running around, a little boy running around the house, you're trying to work on home from a Zoom call, easy thing to do, they have the iPad for an hour. So I know, and the parents know it's the wrong thing to do. But what else? What other choices have they got? They got a Zoom call, a meeting now with their boss or something. 4 till 5. School finishes at 3:30, but then they got a meeting. Work doesn't finish till 5. So then there's a gap for an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes there. Where you got to look after your child. Some people can't afford childcare, which costs an absolute ridiculous amount of money. I didn't realise how much childcare costs, like £1,000 a month or £800 a month. Who can afford that? So there's something you can't afford to pay childcare, so you have to have the son or your daughter in the house with you. And you've got to meet him with your boss for the next 2 hours, an hour. So what's the easiest thing to do? Give him some quick snacks, sugary food, or not snack, some fruit or veg, hopefully. Or give him some snacks and put him on an iPad for an hour and a half. But look, it's hard. It's difficult. Like, so whether the employer's got to get better at, giving the parents more flexibility or something. Because, it's hard. If you're in a position where you can not afford to work, the husband or the wife, brilliant. That's very rare these days. Very, very rare these days. So it's hard whether... parents are struggling financially. The cost of living is going up a stupid amount of money. The bill, gas, electric, council tax went up 2 weeks ago. And it's expensive out there. It's really expensive. So, and people are really worrying about it. People are using food banks more and more. So it's tough at the moment, really tough. So I think if they put some form of free classes on, again, money, it comes out of money, and who's going to fund that? But some form of thing about talking to the parents about emotional intelligence and that sort of thing, and things they could do to help their own. Because say you're the most important person in the world. More important than your kids. If you're burnt out and exhausted or tired, you can't be good. So you got to look after yourself. That might sound, it's not selfish. You got to look after yourself. And I'm the most important person in my world. You're the most important person in your world. You think your kids are, or they is, but if I'm burnt out, depressed, tired, upset, or even worse, in a bad place, I'm not a good father or parent for my son then. So you got to look after yourself first. I think so. Parents would welcome maybe some form of I don't know. It's a tough one.
I think you're right. I think there's something in just as a society actually going into let's break it down. You go into the workforce, you go into schools. Parents do when they come out. There's something around dealing with emotions, something around emotional intelligence, especially if emotional awareness, and there's classes within the education system that are creating places where kids are understanding what it is and actually being celebrated for being emotionally intelligent, being in touch. Like, what happens when a kid does go over and looks after another kid or shares their emotions, or what if that's celebrated and rewarded?
Actually brilliant,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right.
Like,
yeah, do you mean?
Maybe that starts to have an impact, because all of it, for me, there's so many different touch points, right? And I'll talk about success being my thing that I'll focus on and how we can change that narrative. But so much of it is about being present, being your authentic self. These are if we can measure, and I don't know, I haven't got all the answers. I'm same as you. I'm not the most academic person. Someone much smarter than me is going to figure this out. But surely, just the conversations I've had on here, just even today, like this conversation we've had, like recognising the importance of being able to have a conversation, the importance of being in touch with your emotions, sharing those feelings.
Yeah.
They're the things that how do we we create something that they're measured and celebrated in schools.
Yeah, it's right. And it's about parents, so first of all, talking to the children. Like I say, you go out sometimes, you see kids on their iPads and the parents on their iPads, and engage with the children, and ask them what their day is. And like I said, I sat my son down. Basically, so after I met the man who saved my life, I wanted to start sharing my story and talking about things on social media. But I didn't want my family to find out a third party, because obviously it involves them. So I wanted to. So I sat with my mother and father, and we had a conversation on a Friday afternoon. And that's the first time we ever spoke about the accident. That was 24 years after my accident happened. And I said, I want to talk about the accident. I said, what do you want to talk about that for? It's brushed under the carpet, the elephant in the room, my house it was. So we spoke about it, and they said, you're a different boy, you changed. I said, tell me what you mean by that. Well, you're just different, you're a different boy now. I said, why? Are you moody, you're quiet, you're miserable? I said, right, okay. I said, it was funny, whenever you spoke to somebody outside my house who knows me, people I've worked with, friends, anybody who knows me outside of this house, they always say, Andrew's funny, he's a life and soul, as you could tell, I don't stop talking. He's bubbly, he's fun. But when I come in this house, I go, my mother and father look at these people and think, well, Andrew, he's really quiet in that. It's only when I come in this house, I said, I don't feel I contribute to the conversation. I don't feel my dad loves me anymore. Oh, that was so stupid, of course he loves you. I said, no, I didn't think that at the time, do you know what I mean? I thought my brothers are better than me, or he loves you all exactly the same. We love you all exactly the same. I said, no, but I didn't think that at the time. So then I was on a Friday, it was a weird conversation. It didn't go into much detail really, not as much, it was just scratched the surface really. And then on a Saturday morning, I sat my son down in Cardiff there, Morgan. He was 22 at the time, he was studying in Cardiff Met, in the university there, doing sport. And we had a 4.5 hour chat about everything, about life. We were close we were close before because me and his mother separated when he was about, 5 or 6, I think, I can't remember. But we were close anyway. I spent every weekend with him doing things, making memories, going off the theme parks. He was brilliant. I stopped going out. I stopped drinking at a young age. My son was my priority. Me and him were so close. And then after that conversation I had 18 months ago, we had a 4.5 hour chat. And at the end of that conversation, I told him I loved him the first time in his life. I'd never told my son I loved him. It took me 22 years to tell my son I loved him. And I hugged him. I said, I'm proud of you as well. I don't care how big your house is, what car you got, what you do for a living. As long as you're happy, that's all I care about in life. So I've broken that generational cycle in my family now where I told him I love him and we tell each other we love each other all the time now. And I say to people now, we had this conversation, right? We talked about drink, drugs, MDMA, cocaine, steroids, girls, my accident, everything, right? And I say to people now, I said that you've got to be open and sit with your children. I say, you might not like what the children are going to tell you. I said, but the worst thing you could do is shout and have a go at them. Because if they come to you and talk to you and you do that, they'll never come to you again. And you can't stop your children doing anything at all. If they want to do something, they'll do it. They'll try and do it. They'll do it somehow behind your back. You can't be with them 24 hours a day. But I'm not condoning anything at all. I'm not condoning anything at all. But like, my son used to go to raves, for example. So I know what goes on in raves. I've worked security. I know what gets handed out in raves and what people take in raves. He goes to the gym. I know what goes on in gyms. I've been a part of this in my life. I grew up in that sort of environment myself. So we had an open conversation. So I know if anything goes wrong, I know where he is, what he's up to, what he's doing. I'm going to like it. When they come and tell you things, you might be raging inside. You might be really angry inside. But try and be calm. Because if you are, they'll talk to you about anything. They'll come and tell you anything at all then. They're you're not friends with them, but they'll trust you and they'll talk to you. But the worst thing you can do is have a go at them, shout and scream at them, lock them in their bedroom. They'll do it behind your back. Do you know what I mean? And I said, the kids in school, like the posh kids, the academic kids in school who come from wealthy backgrounds, weren't allowed to go out, they weren't allowed to go camping, weren't allowed to do anything. As soon as they got to 18 university then, they were wild because they were so suppressed at a young age. Their parents weren't allowed to do anything. When they get to 18, 19, 20 years of age then, they're nuts, they go mad then because they've been so suppressed all their lives. I said, you can't do that, you can't stop your kids doing anything at all, I said, because eventually they will do something. So I say, as parents, you've got to have open conversations with your children, have open, honest conversations with your children and use yourself as examples of what you've done in your life as well. I said, I've tried things, I've done things, and my son, well, you have. Yeah, I have. And he said, well, giving your son and your daughter the pros and the cons and making them let the choice themselves. And I know you only want what's best for your children. You want to try and protect them as much as you can, wrap them in cotton wool sometimes. But all you can do is give them the best advice you can and try and steer them on the right path and be there for them. If the wheels fall off or something goes wrong, be there to help them, pick them up and teach them. That's all we got to be as teachers in life. But don't try and force your children to do anything at all. You see kids now, what do you want to do for a living? I want to be a doctor. You're interested in medicine then? Or my dad or mother's a doctor. Or what do you want to do for a living? Or teacher. My dad said be a teacher. Yeah, but what do you want to do for a living? What do you enjoy doing? Not your mum and dad, what they do. What do you enjoy doing? I say to parents now, don't force your kids to do anything at all. If they do, they're doing a job they hate and not fulfilling them to keep you happy and make you proud. And that'd be the worst thing. If I ever grew up and my son did a job for me, I feel terrible about doing that. I feel bad that I want him to do what he wants to do and what keeps him happy.
Mate, that's such a brilliant message for people listening.
Yeah.
And I'm keen, if we can. I'm really keen to just, because it's incredible, I think, and how brave it is. Because one, that you haven't been given the skills and the tools, but you've still gone. So I'm in my comfort zone here. I haven't been given the skills and tools, but I'm going to come out of that comfort zone and sit with my son, and I'm going to have that conversation with him. And how brave and courageous that is alone to be able to do that. But then I'm really keen to just tap in that sitting there with your parents and having that chat about the accident, and you sharing that vulnerable side, and that you'd never, I didn't feel like I was loved, or that you wasn't meeting those expectations, etc., etc. And what would you like them to have said to you, like that response? Because obviously the response seems to me, as you've talked about it, that wasn't what you'd hoped for, maybe.
Of my parents? Again, they feel uncomfortable and feel awkward about it. Because I feel uncompassionate towards my parents. I didn't really understand what compassion meant until about a year ago. But I can be compassionate towards yourself. You listen on podcasts thinking, what do you mean compassionate with yourself? And it's about treating yourself the same way as you treat your best friends, I suppose. Not being hard on yourself, not beating yourselves up. So I'm compassionate with my parents now. The saying is, you're doing as best you can with the tools you got available at that time. My parents did the best they could with the tools they got available at that time. They grew up just coming out of World War II, for example. So, they're emotional. They didn't have emotional support. They had to be strong. They had to be survivors and be breadwinners and all that sort of thing. But it's changed like 50, 60 years on. It's changed a lot now. So, I'm compassionate with my parents now. I know they do love me, but they find it hard to say it. I mean, it's when I did my big challenge last year. Like, I was standing in my mother's house, my mother and father's, and I was in the corridor leaving to go to the front door. My mother was there, talking to my mother, I give her a hug, goodbye, and all that, good luck, and all that. I turned, and my dad, I didn't know he was there. My dad was standing there. We looked each other up and down. All right, yeah, shook each other's hand, yeah, bye, and walked off. And it was like a business transaction. Like my mate does. It was like a weird, uncomfortable thing. My mum, yeah, bye. All right, yeah, bye, yeah, off. And I went out. I didn't see my mum said. I went off. We had never hugged my dad. And even to this day, we touched on it last night. I mean, I need to get better at it. I'm promoting it all the time, and tell people who love them. And like, time is precious and all that. I need to take some of my own medicine, to be honest. And take a leaf of my own book, or whatever the saying is. I just do it myself, because I slam to my mother and father, I love them, and I can say that on you. People think I walk around hugging trees, hugging people all the time, loving people. I'm generally not like that all the time. I hug people close to me and everything, and I'm a really loving person. But my own family, I need to get better at my own family, because I know when they're on their deathbed or when they're gone, I'll be devastated, and I'll regret that I never said it. And regret in life is probably one of the worst things you can ever have. I got 1 or 2 regrets, 1 maybe 2, but I can't ever change them. Sometimes regret, you can't ever change it. You can some of them, but some you can't. And some of that I can't ever change. But I got to live with that for the rest of my life now. I'm happy, I'm comfortable with it. But saying to my parents I love them, that's one regret I'll have. I know when they're gone, or when they're on their deathbed, like, why in this country, why does it take something to happen, a trauma or something bad happen, for us to tell someone we love them, for us to change or do something? Why can't we just do it anyway?
What is stopping you, do you think?
I don't know. It's like I want to say it. I get a knot in my stomach. Every now and again, I get pumped. Like, no, I leave here now thinking, right, and get home, and I tell them. I start driving closer to home, I think, no, I chicken and then tomorrow. I'll tell them tomorrow. Because I know if I said it, I'd mumble it under my breath. I might write it on a bit of paper and leave it in the house and walk out one day and see what they say to that, or text. I've got a phone, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like a knot in my stomach. It's like 46 years and never saying it to them, and it's hard. Having to change and try and reprogram my unconscious mind, which I tried to do the last couple of years. It's hard trying to change the way I think and my unconscious mind and my habits and that. It's just strange, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, mate, listen, thank you for being so honest about that as well. I can only imagine how tough that must be. I'm just trying to process it, and I guess I wonder, I know, and again, all the stuff that you've learned the last couple of years, and we talked a lot about failure, right, last night, and how, like, that fear of failing, that often stops us from doing it. But actually, the narrative that you're promoting and what you talk about, and certainly what you've done in your life, especially over the last couple of years, you're proving that failure is a learning thing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this is just me speaking out loud. I'm wondering whether that narrative that you do promote you to, and actually the worst thing that could happen with that situation is that they go, yeah, well, of course we love it, and they almost brush it under. But to sit them down and really just go,
I think they turn to dust or crumble or something. I said, and they just spontaneously human combust or something. Something crazy would happen, or she'd have a heart attack or something. I don't know. I'd be responsible for killing my mother off. I don't know.
I'm sure that won't be the cut, but I guess just for you to be again, so we can only control our controllables, right? We can only control what we do, and like you said, none of us want to live with regrets. So at least if that was something that you set yourself and you went and done that you could sit there and go, I've done it, irrespective of what their reaction is, irrespective of what comes back from that. And if you're, again, Mogad that says it, when expectation meets reality, that's where happiness and fulfillment lie, right? So if we do that, so I wonder whether that if your expectations are here, you never know, like the reality might be completely different, they exceed your expectations. It might not be, but at least if you've sat there and done that.
They'd probably say, I love you. What do you want? Are you terminally ill? Is something wrong with you? Do you want money? You got in trouble or something?
They might
tell you I love you. That's what.
Surprise you.
I feel stupid. Then. What do you say? Is something wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Nobody's ever said that.
and I guess it's back to that feeling. Like we don't. Again, back to that feelings of not wanting to feel. We don't want to. As you mentioned before about. The last thing you want to do is when you're vulnerable with someone is them to then not respond in a positive way to that vulnerability.
I use it as a weapon against you. It's happened to me in the past where it's been used as a weapon against you. Tell somebody in confidence something, and I say that to people now. You know, I got a support network around me. I know thousands of people. I'm quite a popular person. I've done lots of jobs, worked in. But on one hand, maybe two, one, I suppose. I got people I can trust, I can rely on 100%. They won't judge me. They won't try and fix me. They won't treat me any different. And they just sit in the trenches with me. Do you mean I can rely on people? And I said, it's important. And I said, it could be anybody. I'm going to be most of the time, it's not family members. It could be work colleagues. It could be, out of the woodwork the last couple of years. My life's been crazy. My friends from years ago, I've had people come forward who I haven't spoken. Surprisingly, people come out of the woodwork and show their true colours, I suppose. And I got one hand, people I could talk to and sit in the train. I could pick up the phone, give them a ring, go and see them. And they're there for me. I'm likewise as well. I'm there for them as well. I'm there for lots of people. But on one hand, and I think it's really important that you have a support network around you, just to offload to now and again. And men need men as well sometimes. So as men, we need men. And there's lots of men's groups popping up now, which is a good thing to see. Yeah, but I think we still need to promote and give somebody the permission to talk. Create a good space and create a safe space for somebody to open up and talk. And when they say something, don't judge them, don't try and fix them. A lot of the time, you don't need fixing. You just want somebody to offload to and listen to you. And I say to people now, do you want advice or do you want just to listen? Do you want me to listen to you or do you want some advice? Or just listen. And a lot of the time, I'm a huge believer that prevention is better than cure. Is that right? Yeah, prevention is better than cure. And I think a lot of the time, if men were encouraged to open up and talk in a safe space, how many of them suicide rates would come down and, it's spiral and they spiral and for weeks, days, months, years. And then it gets to the point then of no return where they're in a really bad place. Whereas if they had a safe space or encouraged, had a good support network around them months, years before, they might not have escalated that far. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's in my eyes. I think, same with fitness, same with obesity, same with everything, give them the tools and educate them people months or years before, you don't get that far. We're so reactive in this country, we're not very proactive. When somebody's trying to take their own life or in real mental crisis, then we'll do something about it. But why didn't we do something about it or give them the tools years before, months before, it's not to get that far? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, we're so reactive, not very proactive.
You're absolutely spot on. And I think one thing, that's why I think what you're doing and the message you're spreading and sharing your story so openly and so vulnerably, what you're doing is giving people permission. I think that is the key. You're giving other people permission to look at you and go, I can do that as well. I can go out and share it. And that's magical, mate. Yeah. That's magical. Coming towards the end, before we do it, we can't obviously not mention Traitors, right? We can't mention not mention that. To tell us a little bit about the decision to go on there, what the experience was like. Yeah. Talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, the Traitors guy, it's changed my life. Do you mean? And But they approached me. I had to pay, after all, spoke to the doctor, my mother and father, my brothers. I then started putting things on social media. I had a page on Instagram called Strength in You, which is I got a company called Strength in You Limited, because I believe every single person has got the strength in them to achieve great things in life. You just got to find out your purpose and why, work hard, and you can achieve. I'm not saying anything in life. Again, that's all unique. You can't be a president of America, or well, you probably could actually the way it is at the moment. But I'm saying, like, you can achieve most things in life. You just got to find out what your why is, and you can achieve anything in life. Surround yourself with good people, which I try and do now. Is you got hoovers in life, and you got batteries. The batteries pick you up and charge you. The hoovers just suck the life out of you. And I've got hoovers around me sometimes. I think, I try and spend as little time as possible with the hoovers and spend time with batteries who try and pick me up and surround myself with better people. So I had a page on Instagram then, talking about mental health and my journey and that sort of thing. And I want to be open and honest with people. That's why I want to be open and honest, and I want to be the real person on social media, not all fluff and nonsense. And I had a message on my Instagram of somebody from a casting director saying, your story looks amazing. You seem like a nice guy. Do you want to apply for this show? And I thought somebody was winding me up, first of all. Yeah, okay, whatever, the Traitors. Because I watched I don't like reality TV. I don't watch any reality TV apart from SAS, Who Dares Wins. I like that. And maybe, sort of Jungle now and again. But I haven't watched that the last couple of years. But then I spoke to my partner at the time. I said, I don't care about being recognised on the street. I generally don't. I'm a down-to-earth, humble bloke I know where I come from a council estate in the valleys. But I thought I can get a great platform and a profile and make connections now to do what I'm doing now, to project my talk about mental health and well-being. I had a couple hundred followers before, if that. But now I got like thousands of followers. I'm making great connections. That's the only reason I'm on that show, was to get a platform and a profile to help people with their mental health. I don't want people to suffer for 24 years like I did in silence. And all I want to do, which is a bit woo this is, or whatever you call it, I want to close my eyes on my deathbed, whenever that is, hopefully a long time away, knowing I made a difference to the planet. That's all I want to do. I want to help people. I want to give back to people now. I got a purpose in life. I haven't got a fancy house. I've got a car. I've got nothing. Nothing. But my heart and my soul feels fuller now than it ever has, because I got a purpose in life. Every day, coming here, talking to you, sharing my story. Hopefully, the listeners will help find it beneficial. Standing up on stage in schools, universities, sharing my story is like a therapy for me. People say, you get triggered. Not at all, I say, because I'm lucky I can't remember the accident. So the people in the car and my family probably had it worse than me psychologically. They saw horrendous things, and my partner at the time, she said, what we saw, you were lying there, horrendous what we saw, do you know what I mean? So it's only the last couple of years I realised, I knew it, they went through, my family, not only really appreciated it, the last couple of years, what they went through. My family, I didn't just go through the trauma, everyone around me went through that trauma as well. My family, my loved ones, my friends, they went through it as well. Imagine being told your son's never going to walk again or recognise you again, or, that's horrendous. I never want that to happen to me. I never want to think about it, my son, everything like that. But my brother, for example, he come home from work, school, at 14 years of age, to an empty house, and have to prepare and do his own tea. 4 months I was in hospital for. My mother was on the hospital with my dad every day, so she'd prepare food in the morning, put it in the fridge or the microwave or the oven or whatever. He'd have to come home from 14 years of age, look after himself for a few hours till my parents got home at 8 o'clock at night. Like, what effect did I must have on him? Do you know what I mean? And we've spoken about it since. But yeah, but there's a huge effect. So I've got off on tangent now. You asked about Traitors, but I think it was important.
This is more, this is more why we went on conversation. Have you spoke to your younger brother then about that?
Yeah. He said, it was tough. It was tough times, do you know what I mean? And it was quite lonely, I suppose, for a couple of months, do you know what I mean? And my parents didn't miss every day they were down the hospital, to be honest with you. And it's hard, do you know what I mean? And it's tough, hospitals. I mean, your mind starts playing tricks. It's a lonely place in hospital, and you see people around you dying. There's people around me who died in hospital in intensive care whose injuries weren't that bad. Just give up on life. Do you know what I mean? I think there's people around me dying, and I'm thinking, God, I wasn't ready. Do you know, it wasn't my time then, and my family went through all that with me as well. Do you know what I mean? My friends and my close ones, my loved ones, and that as well. And it's only been the last couple of years I really understood that. But that's the only way I went on Traitors, to be honest. Going back to the question you asked me was, to get a profile on a platform, because I don't want people to suffer. I want to be that role model. I'm a strong, super strong person, mentally, physically. I'll never be broken. Nobody will ever beat me. Nobody will ever break me. And I'm happy to take that responsibility on my shoulders to carry the next generation, help people. Break them stigmas that open up and talking makes you weak. Failure is a bad thing. And talking, toxic masculinity. All these boxes, I want to help and be that role model for people out there to follow, or not follow. Give them a bit of hope. The world is a tough place at the moment, and it's grim out there. Do you know what I mean? I stopped watching the news a couple of years ago, not because I'm ignorant, but I protect my own mental health. And the news, I think, is designed to scaremonger and control people. But I said, if something important happens, I'll find out about it somehow. I'm going to watch the news all the time and listen to that nonsense. I said, but yeah, so I want to be that person out there. There's hope in the world. There's lots of people out there like me doing great things, like you doing great things. Sharing hope and being positive in the world, and that's what we need more of. More positive people giving hope to people in the world.
I completely agree. I think it is, and that's what you are doing. That is what you are doing. You're spreading the message and and your story, and because when anyone listening, and I often say this, the one thing we need is hope, right? That's what we need. We just need that bit of hope. Yeah. And sometimes by us having this conversation and sharing stuff and knowing that we've been in those dark times, and people listening, and if they are listening, they reach out to someone. Reach out, have that conversation. Just have that conversation. I think asking for help is one of the bravest things. And I know I'll do this similar to you. Right? Almost where we go. I preach so much, and then I don't often do it. I even shared a bit in December. I got to the end of last year and was not in a great place actually. Yeah. Old narratives talking to me and listening. Got up this year and I've asked for help so much more, but the amount of people that are around me who love me, who supported me, look at that 100th episode, 150 people who love me and support, and you go, just by reaching out and being vulnerable and asking for help, honestly, it's the bravest but the most amazing thing, because people will be there to
100%. And I say to people, if you think if I'm comfortable, if your friend come to you and ask for help, would you think anything different of him? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't treat him any different. So why don't you do it? Do you mean if you come to me, Sam, you rung me up and I'm struggling a bit, I wouldn't think, oh, look at this guy, he's weak, and I just wouldn't think I'd be there for you straight away. I'd be there for any of my mates straight away, or my family or anything. But I wouldn't think any different. But when we do it, we think, oh, they're going to think bad of me. They're going to think I'm weak. Or they're going to. No, they're not. They're not going to. They want to help. People want to help. There are people out there who do want to help you. When you think you're in a bad place, in a dark place on your own, you're going to need to reach out there. I know. I'm not going to sit there and say it's easy, because it's not easy. It took me a long, long time to do it. And I say to people, when you know somebody's struggling, I said, in the workplace, for example, do you know what I mean? You know somebody's going through a separation, missed their target in work or whatever, just ask them a question. I said, I understand people, they worried they're going to trigger someone or they don't want an awkward conversation, but I said, I'd rather have an awkward conversation with you now than come to your bedside in 6 months' time or your funeral in 6 months' time. I'd rather have an awkward conversation with you now. And I said, a lot of the time as well, they just want somebody, again, I said, we touched on it earlier on, they want to listen, they want somebody to listen to them. That's all. So I know if you're in work, I say to someone, is everything okay? And I say, when you're struggling with mental health, the normal answer you give someone is, yeah, I'm fine. I say, don't be offended by that. If somebody says that to you, don't be offended by it. Just say to them, just follow up saying to them, if you want to pick up the phone, we'll go for a walk, have a chat. When you feel ready, if you want to chat to me, drop it and don't go on about it. Don't drop it. Because what normally happens, I'm not going to go at people because I know they're only trying to help you. But they end up in an argument with some people. They say, oh, is everything okay? They say to me, oh, yeah, I'm fine. No, it's not. Tell me what's wrong. No, I'm fine. I know I tell this. I'm fine. And you end up in an argument with this person then, and you get angry, and you end up in an argument then. And so I say to people, don't interrogate people. You can't force somebody to talk. You can't make somebody to talk till they're ready to talk. I said, all you've got to do is be there for someone and listen to them. Listening is such an important skill that we don't learn listening skills, do we? And people, when they say, oh, I'll listen to you and talk to you, you start talking and they overtalk you. They start getting their opinion. Well, what happened to them 10 years ago? Thinking, you're not listening to me. You say you want to help me, you're not even listening to me. I said, so I say to people, don't walk past it. I said, walking past something is worse than, it's worse than, I say, you could be the difference between them going home and taking their own life or not. And that's drastic, I know. It can't happen. Do you mean you being nice to someone in the petrol station or in the supermarket, saying good morning, hello, and you don't know what's going on in their life. They could have lost somebody recently, they could have had a divorce, they could have lost their job, been diagnosed with terminal illness. They could be getting things, go home and do it. That could be the first time they come out of their house for 3 weeks. So you just sit thinking, oh, that's only saying hello, that's simple. Yeah, simple to you, but to that person, that could be, yeah, I'm actually seen, I'm valuable. That could be the difference in them going home and putting a plan in place or doing something. Doing so, just be nice to people. That's what I say, just be nice.
Right. Absolutely that, right? Absolutely that. And you're right. Is that's actually, again, is that something we teach in schools? Is there a role play that you set up where you actually get kids to really listen, to have a conversation, but to listen to that other person and really maybe that if we would create environments where people, because you're right, you often. I listen to that and I think there's so much, and this forces me to do it, which I love about, one of the reasons I love doing this, but because it forces you to listen and really listen, because you want to respond to someone, as opposed to what we often do in society is you going, yeah, you're not really listening, you're just waiting for them to finish because you want to go, yeah, but I've got something more important to say. Actually, no, I want to listen to what you're saying and try and respond.
Listening skills, they're important, active listening, they call it. And it's an exclusive, this is now, and I don't know, you might want to edit this out. I don't know if it's going to be controversial or not. But there's a group, I'm going to be forming a group soon, right? It's a member, it's a free group to join, right? Isn't it? You're not going to no subscription fees or nothing at all. It's called the Nice Person Group. This is my new group I'm setting up, right? Because over the last year, and I read about these groups, this group is this, and I've been asked to join so many groups, right? I'm not going to join any group. I will not join any group, right? Apart from my own group. I'm going to be a founder, CEO of my own group. And it's called the Nice Person Group, right? The application form is one question. Are you a nice person, yes or no? If it's yes, you're welcome in my group. You're not going to pay any membership fee, just come in my group. If it's a no, go and join one of the attention-seeking groups out there, right, who are doing it for attention. I said, in my group, I don't care if you're black, white, green, pink, orange. I don't care. You're a nice person, yeah. I don't care if you pray to God, Allah, Father Christmas. I don't care. I don't care if you like penises, vaginas, nothing at all. If you're a chair, I don't care. I don't care. I just be a nice person. Take the labels off us all, right, and put us in a room and talk to each other. We lost the communication skills and talking. And I say, in my group, right, we have different opinions, which is normal in life. If we were all the same, the world would be such a boring place. We all got different opinions in the world, but we accept each other's opinions. We might not like it or agree with it, but that's fine. We don't argue with them. We don't shout about it. We don't try and force your opinion down somebody else's throat. We don't run off on social media and cry about it and put it all over social media, slagging this other person's opinion off. We try and respect other people's cultures, religions, beliefs and that sort of thing. We all get on. We have a nice chat. We have a debate now and again. But it's a nice atmosphere and it's a nice group. So, so I'm going to be launching it quite soon. And it's a simple group. And it's great. There's no membership. It doesn't cost anything to join it. You're more than welcome. You're a nice person. I don't care. You're Greek Cypriot. I don't care where you come from. I don't care where your nationality is. I don't care. You're English. That goes against being Welsh, mine, but that's on the border. But I don't care you're English. It don't bother me. You're a nice person. You're the first member of my group if you want to come into it.
Mate, I'm in 100%. 100%. Get me. Where do I sign? Listen to that. What a wonderful world that would be, though, wouldn't it?
And it's simple outlook. You've got such a simple outlook on life. It can be.
We can complicate. We've talked some deep subjects today, masculinity, all these things that are big subjects that we do need to talk about and are open. But actually, sometimes we don't need to complicate things, and we could just keep it simple. And then you're a nice person. Just be a nice person.
Yeah, there's two things. Be a nice person. Get out in nature. Yeah. Move more. Go out in nature. Go in a forest. Go out in nature. Walk by a river, and be nice. Them three things, right? If people did them three things, that would not end, but that would be a huge movement forward in the rates of suicide, depression, all these different happiness, the wars in the world, all these things. I could be the next president. I'm gonna run for PM. I think. Mate,
you got my vote. I'm gonna be your campaign leader. Let's do it.
I'm gonna walk around Brighton now. Actually, with my board, I'm gonna knock the board up now. Nice person group. I get my first couple of members in Brighton.
Nice person party, mate. Yeah. I tell you what, we're in. You heard it here first, people. You heard it here first. Mate, I want to, as we're coming before we do the final tradition, I do want to ask if you go back and you could speak to a young Andrew, what would you say to him?
How long have we got left? Don't do it. Don't have that extra pint. No, no, just don't be so hard on yourself. Open up and talk to someone. Just talk to someone, and don't be hard on yourself. Because I'm so hard on myself, like we all are. I think we're always striving for the next thing. And with social media, we always ever see the end result. We only ever see the nice house, the fancy body, the nice car. But nobody ever talks about the failed attempts, the upset, the down, the stresses. Like my social media. Oh, you've got a great life, you're really busy. Yeah, but nobody ever sees the downside. I got a problem with me crying. I should start doing that, I suppose. It's real. Nobody ever sees my relationship ending. Nobody ever sees, that's all, my boy going off to Australia for a 12-month. My rock, I suppose. They go, like, so when my life was crazy last year, my son went to Australia, my relationship ended within the space of a couple of months. So, like, two people in my life I really relied on, I suppose, and were there for me, had gone. But nobody ever sees that on my social media. So, yeah, so don't be so... I say to people now, don't compare yourselves to other people, especially social media, because they only ever put their best bits of their life on social media. And it's not true. I've been involved in social media a lot the last 12 months. And it's nonsense. A lot of it's nonsense. So, yeah, so don't be so hard on yourself, personally, and just try and be happy. Just, spend time with loved ones more. yeah, and time. Don't waste time. You know, time is so precious, and we don't take it for granted, don't we, as well? So yeah, don't be so hard on myself. I think be proud of myself.
Mate, it's honestly, I'm so grateful for you coming on, and it's been the amazing conversation I knew it would be. And what you're doing, honestly, it's obviously something that's very close to my heart, and I think what you're doing, mate, you're saving lives. That's what you're doing.
Thank
You're
you.
changing the world. You are changing
Does.
the world, and for all that you've been through and being able to share your story is just so inspiring. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we've got this is our tradition that we finish off with a podcast. So these are my storytelling cards that we host at our different events. So I'm going to get you to pick a card, any card, and then pass it back to me. I'll read you a question.
Ooh. Like strip poker.
That's for episode 2.
Let me get in shape first.
Okay, here we go. Have your ideas of happiness and success evolved as you've grown older?
That's like a pick for this pod. That's
Mate,
actually.
what.
Have you picked that on purpose?
You saw it here, people. He picked his card.
God, I'm a spiritualist. I am. I'm in touch. Yeah. Like, what do they call it? These fortune teller people. God, that couldn't be a perfect question, could it? Yeah, massively. Yeah, my success and happiness. We've touched on it a few times, haven't we, today? And my idea of success now has changed massively. Like, and I was one of them people comparing myself to everybody else. By this age, it should be that. By that age, it should be this. And my friends and this, comparing myself and thinking, I'm enjoying my life now. I'll buy a house when I'm ready to buy a house. I'm making memories. I'm spending time with loved ones, making memories, meeting people like yourself, doing great things, sharing my story, inspiring people. And that's wealth. Do you know what I mean? And wealth, as soon as you say the word wealth, sometimes people might jump to money. But wealth is, again, subjective to everybody, isn't it? Wealth to me is my health. I still want to be moving and walking when I'm 80, 90 years of age. Do you know what I mean? And being healthy. And my life is like, have a laugh, to enjoy my life, and then die. I don't want to be kept alive by medicine or kept alive by pills or looking after people looking after me. People say, oh, life expectancy is it older and older? Yeah, but the quality of life, I think, is as good. Like, so I don't want to be kept alive until I'm 90, 100, having a poor quality of life. Do you mean I want to go out to the bang or go out still going to the gym, still walking, still dancing one day, just not wake up? And that's my life. I can go out happy, do you know what I mean, and doing what I want to do, not being fed or my wife or anything like that. I want to be able to do it all myself. So, yeah, success to me is being healthy and spending time with loved ones and helping inspire people. That's success. That's measuring my success now, not the material things in life.
Love that. What a brilliant way to finish, mate. It's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that, as they say, is a wrap.